here for episode number 22 of Beers and Bells. So I'm DeMarco, this is Sean, and this is a very special episode for us. We're very excited to share with you and talk to you with one of our special guests who is involved with a really cool nonprofit. So we're super excited. Before we get started though, Sean, would you tell them about the challenge?
Sure. Just want to remind you guys of the 1,000 subscriber challenge. So once we reach that number, we're definitely inching closer and closer. We'll pick 5 of you guys as winners of 3 very important prizes. One of which is 5 free personal training sessions, whether in person or on Zoom, depending on your preference. From there, we can tailor a 3-month program as your second prize, obviously tailored to your goals. And then the third and final one is the shirt that DeMarco has on right now, and as do I underneath this. But yeah, so keep in that sub button, and so we can finally pick 5 of you guys at some point.
Absolutely. All right, and without further ado, John, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks for being on. Yeah, I know you guys have been busy, and with everything going on right now in the country and the world, it's been a lot going on. But it's we appreciate your guys' time. So, but yeah, John, if you just want to kind of take over, feel free to tell us a little bit about yourself and where are we and what are we doing.
Sounds good. My name is John. I'm the CEO and founder of Inner City Weightlifting. We're a nonprofit, and this idea really came from a year at AmeriCorps I had. This is my first year out of undergrad in 2005. I played soccer at Bryant University and did this program called Athletes in Service to America, which is under the AmeriCorps umbrella.
Cool.
You go through the training and talk about who you're going to be working with and the challenges that they're up against and kind of almost catering to this like white savior complex. So I get to the school in East Boston, and 99% of the people there, they're definitely facing barriers that I've never had to face, especially not in this country as a white male. But there were a number of great programs out there. And despite the barriers, people were not just surviving, they were thriving. They were making it through. And it's not to kind of devalue the barriers that they were up against. It's more to kind of value the resilience of strength people.
Absolutely.
And so it was actually through soccer that I had a chance to meet someone who was, quote unquote, involved in the streets. And I was told by several people, don't go near him and his friends. They're too dangerous. Don't waste my time. They're not going to change. And I now recognize that as this weaponized use of fear. Because through soccer and through meeting people, what I found and what I saw was not violence, not overwhelming violence. What I saw was love, support, belonging, togetherness. People supporting each other in a society that very literally labeled them and said, stay away. And weight training just happened to be this common interest for some of the people that I met that could kind of get me a little more time and just build relationships. So after that year, nothing really came of that. I became a full-time personal trainer. I went from an AmeriCorps stipend of $800 a month and living in Boston. At that point in time, like every Saturday, my big treat was a cup of coffee and a bagel from Dunkin' Donuts. Then I started training, and all of a sudden, within a year, I'm making $120K. I'm training people from just very affluent backgrounds, people who've had incredible success in business. And I love personal training. And never really forgot about some of the people that I met that year. And after a few years of that, I just felt like I had to see 56 sessions in my schedule each week. And I was just kind of, is this it for the next 40 years of my life? But I started talking to a couple of my clients and came up with this idea to kind of combine my passion for personal training with a perspective that people with lived experience gave. And specifically people where there was a gap in services due to safety considerations and again, that weaponized use of fear. So went to Babson in 2009, graduated in 2010 to get my MBA to figure out how to launch a sustainable nonprofit, which I now know is an oxymoron. They're legally unsustainable, so I appreciate opportunities like this to promote us. And you got off the ground in 2010, this completely bootstrapped pilot model. Initially, it was really focused on Olympic lifting and an idea that we could get people into the Olympics and college athletic scholarships. And we start doing the work, and you've got people who are shot and paralyzed, people going out of jail, people just focused on, am I going to have a place to live next month, and where's my next meal coming from? The idea that weight training was going to solve something was ridiculous. But what it did do is give me, and now us, this opportunity to reach out, to connect with people in a way that is not about hierarchy, but just about, you want to come and work out 3 o'clock. And it gave way to this 4-stage model that we have today of trust, hope, bridging social capital, and economic mobility. And personal training allows us to not just get the economic mobility, but flip all the power dynamics. In any other setting, a person coming from an affluent background would connect with someone who is a quote-unquote criminal, which, by the way, is the best, and I say this in a really negative way, the best way to devalue someone. But in the gym, they're paying someone as a fitness professional. And that allows for these relationships to form that otherwise wouldn't. And it starts to challenge racial caste systems. It starts to challenge privilege because now you value each other as equals. And that really becomes the direction for ICW as we grow into our 11th and now 12th year, morphing from this weight training program to a workforce development track to a social justice organization aimed at amplifying the voice and agency of our trainers, of people in our program, the true experts who have lived the social issues that people are trying to solve, sadly, too often without their input.
Wow. Well, yeah, seriously, that's amazing. So it sounds like you guys have, you in particular, you're starting this kind of like a 3-phase plan, and obviously beyond that. So that's really cool.
Yeah, it's exciting. I think we're still very much just at the starting line. We're right now we're just in Boston. We're trying to double our footprint here, but eventually would love to be able to get to Baltimore, St. Louis, Chicago, and from there, if we can make it work in these 4 major markets. At that point, maybe we don't have to open up in Oakland or LA or DC. We can instead just collaborate and teach the model and expand without having to take on more overhead, but really just create a network.
That's awesome, man. That's really, really cool. That reminds me, I'm sure you've heard of Wesley Hamilton and what he's doing in Kansas City. What is it called? Disabled But Not Really is the name of his gym. I only found out about it because he was on an episode of a TV show. I can't remember what it was called now, but basically he was from the streets, as they say, and he was paralyzed due to gun violence, and he decided to start a gym, a nonprofit, and it's people that have also experienced that as well. People with quote-unquote disabilities going in and working out. Very empowering workspace, workplace, like place to work out and place to train, build a community, and it's we obviously, most of us understand the statistics. The majority of them are POC and BIPOC, so those are the people that are being served, which is good. The need is there. But kind of a similar model, so very, very similar.
Yeah,
so it's really
check it out.
Yeah, it's really neat. So obviously what you guys are doing is really, really cool. You have any questions, Sean?
Yeah, so that kind of blew me away already, and there was probably 10 questions in my head, and now they're all gone. But so
apologies.
No, it's okay. I feel like I had a question and you answered it, and I was like just thinking about a bunch of other things. But so as far as great job by the way. Obviously, it's a great facility. I've only been there for 10 minutes, and it's I can't stop looking around. So how many sessions a week are you actually able to do now compared to before? Because obviously you're running the show, so to speak. So it's do you still find enough time to kind of fulfill that, your love for personal training, even though you have to deal with all the other ins and outs of this business?
Yeah. So as far as myself and personal training, I am all washed up. I live vicariously through all of our trainers and staff now. As far as the organization goes, though, we've actually been able to grow this year. Certainly there was a dip in March and April, but as we figured out our path into the virtual world, we're now able to sign up companies and clients coast to coast, literally all over the world, international.
Right.
And that's allowed us to actually grow by about 40% this year in terms of our training sessions.
Oh, that's
There's
amazing.
been other avenues of our revenue as a nonprofit that have been hit a little bit, but we've been able to make up for most of that with this expansion into the virtual world. And I think the most important part about that is, as we think about amplifying voice and agency, the connections that are being made between our trainers and clients, and how that ripples out to the way someone might talk about these social issues with their family, and then their social network, and then their community, and eventually, if you expand enough and get enough people, it ripples out to society. I think about a lot of the debate around policy, and you look at the history of this country, and policy is so important. But without moral change, which is a lot harder, new policy gets met with new forms of oppression. And you just kind of evolve, as Brian Stevenson says with Equal Justice Initiative, he talks about America's legacy going from slavery to racial terror to segregation to mass incarceration. There's policy at each of those points that morph into a new form of oppression. So when I think about the virtual world and the opportunity it gives us, not just to get more people in the program and generate more income for our trainers, it also helps with our social message and this flipping of power dynamics that can happen. So, the virtual world has actually allowed us to expand. I want to expand a lot more. Our goal for the end of this year, and we're kind of just 12 sessions away from doing it, but is to get to 200 sessions a week at this current facility. I would love to eventually get to 400, so by next year we want to be at 300 and then 400 the year after. I think the virtual world actually gives us a new avenue.
Absolutely.
In there.
Especially where you may not have as much space to work around, depending on guidelines and whatnot. But I hate to say this sometimes, but obviously some people have sort of benefited from the pandemic, and obviously others who very much did not. But as far as gyms and stuff go, I would argue this is one of the spaces that is maybe a little bit more important than a regular box gym in terms of staying open, just because of what you guys bring to the table. So that's awesome that you guys were able to. You were probably shut down for 4 months.
For us, shutting down was never really an option. Given kind of who we're working with, we went right into virtual. Because the gym did have to shut down. Obviously, virtual didn't. The social aspect of what we do, helping people get their IDs and basic needs, is what we'll pay for all that for people in our program. That didn't. So it actually allowed us to stay open in really small capacity or limited capacity ways. So if someone doesn't have internet, we could open up the gym and help that person sign up, or their family sign up for whatever benefits or take care of whatever kind of issues. So we're able to kind of find the paths through that, I guess. But we figured if the need grows, we're a nonprofit, we need to find a way to respond that much more.
And that's why the internet's great for that, because certainly, again, I don't want to say it's benefited from COVID, but it kind of is to a degree, because now you have that option where people are comfortable, or maybe even prefer the virtual side of it, because who knows if certain clients that you guys have had are ever comfortable coming back in here, even post-pandemic or whatnot, or until the vaccine's been around for a bit. So to still be able to train them, it's obviously a big part of what DeMarco and I try to do with our clients. We put them first, so it's we want to still be able to see them, even if we don't actually see them. So the fact that we have that avenue of going virtual, and it's like I said, it seems that most people are going to want to stick with that at least for a little bit until the summer, springtime next year. So it's good that you're able to take that and run with it.
Yeah, I think one of the cool parts is you're quote unquote zooming into each other's homes. If you actually get to know each other, where
you really are,
where the in-person model is so beneficial at that your personal relationship, in the virtual model, it can be a little bit tougher. At the same time, because you're now in each other's homes, you're meeting each other's families, and
it's a different level.
Really cool. Yeah. So it has not been a year without its challenges and pivots, and nor will any year. This year just had potentially a little bit more. And sadly, too much of the same. Stuff that has always been happening, but we've just never noticed or paid attention to, unfortunately. But there has been some really cool opportunities that have come out of the virtual world that we intend to make stick around for us.
Right.
That's great.
Go ahead. Just off of that, was that even so much like an option prior to COVID, or obviously you prefer to have people in the gym, but like were there people that actually who may have been across the country that there was a little bit of virtual learning going on?
No, so it was something that we certainly had been talking about for a couple of years. That being said, our capacity is somewhat limited, so we have to kind of prioritize where we're going to spend our time and money. So we've been talking about it. We hadn't actually launched into any sort of virtual training or platform, but the right opportunity, so to speak, came up and forced it.
Right. Yeah.
Absolutely. No, that's fantastic. So John, could you take me through, like from beginning, not to the end, because this is obviously, you mentioned the word multiple times, relationships and everything, from the moment that somebody, let's start here. How do you find, or how do people find you guys to join the program? And then what's that process from like where they start to, where?
In terms of the participants?
The trainers and participants, yeah.
Okay, cool. So a lot of it to date is word of mouth. Initially, it was outreach. We were working in juvenile prisons. We were working with street workers, and getting connected to people who had additional barriers around safety. And again, one of the reasons why there was this real gap in services and organizations is that we don't publicly disclose either of our gyms. We drive people to and from as we understand that they can't safely take public transportation. And so for most programs, there are great programs, and they're not wrong. If you can't figure out the safety logistics, you're just not going to be able to work to scale with this population. And so initially it was really focused at figuring out who are the people with those extra barriers and how do we get connected. And from building those relationships, we started with just 4 people in the program. But then after our first 3 months, we were up to 50. And it's because
holy cow,
there was this gap in services, and all of a sudden they would start bringing in all their friends. So a lot of it is direct outreach. We don't just work with anyone. And I talked a little bit about the model before of trust, hope, bridging social capital, economic mobility. The journey for someone in this program, it's very individualized. And it's done with kind of the core philosophy of, like, we're not doing anything for someone. It's condescending to think that it caters right to that white savior complex.
Yeah.
What we are here to do is partner with someone, to be there for someone at those most difficult decision points so that they don't have to be alone in solving their problems. And so that first stage about trust is really just about earning that relationship. And when you do it, the gym is certainly the reason now to do the outreach. But then you figure out, someone might want to participate, but they can't get there safe. All right, we'll pick you up. And all of a sudden you solve one hurdle that is outside of a written curriculum. Then you start realizing that the way this person can safely get around is to have a car. Before we can even get to income, do they have an ID? Do they have a permit? Do they have a license? We'll pay for all that. Pre-COVID, we'll drive people to RMD, which is talk about spending some meaningful time together when you're waiting for line.
Yeah, seriously.
And from there, once you earn that relationship, now all of a sudden the gym gives us a place to deepen those relationships, to work out, not even necessarily to talk about anything, but over time you start to realize what's someone interested in. Someone might be interested in culinary arts, so we train a couple chefs so we can make those connections happen.
Oh, wow.
About a third of people in the program, they are interested in personal training, so they'll go into our personal training career track. Anyone else, it's really about what's the network of people coming into our gym, network of companies around us that we partner with, our supporters, our funders, and just starting to try to put all the kind of connections and options in place for someone who is very much in the driver's seat, and we're just kind of along for the ride.
That's awesome.
And you know and that's really where we get into that bridging social capital. So I'll skip over the economic mobility, which comes last. I think people understand that. But the bridging social capital, that one's really important because that's where I believe, anyway, I think we believe there's the most impact, both on individuals and on society. And it kind of gets broken into three parts. The first one is expertise. So like I said before, someone's not here to be mentored by some affluent person who's never known the life of someone in our program. Mm-hmm. They're here as a fitness professional that personal training client values is going to pay them for. So already you start to flip those power dynamics, you start to challenge the traditional hierarchies because the relationship is set up on certainly an equal level, and if anything, where our trainer is actually above.
They're elevated.
This other person.
Yeah.
And that allows over the course of these training sessions for these relationships to grow in really authentic ways. And when that happens, now you get a personal connection. When we get to the second component, which is equals, you start to view each other as equals. And when that happens, now all of a sudden you start to look at your own life, where you belong or don't, how you've gotten to where you are, whether you believe in the meritocracy or you believe in the path that was kind of not quite predetermined for you, but certainly paved for you. And finally, as you start to develop those relationships, it now extends from an individual to their family, their community. You start talking about, if you're a personal training client, I've heard this several times, you start talking about racism. You start talking about racial caste systems. You start talking about not just the kind of the words, institutional racism, stuff. You start talking about how this country was founded on tearing families apart, on rape, on torture, on murder, on people showing up at lynchings and taking pictures to send as postcards.
Yeah.
You start to not just understand history, but you start to connect it with history and how the weight of history influences where we are today, where an individual is today, and it gets to this kind of third component, which we call enlightenment, because now it's more about you understand your individual role, and you also can see more of the systemic issues and name them for what they are.
Well, to be honest, I came in here with as clean of a slate as possible. Like, obviously, DeMarco, and he was talking about my older clients about, she referred us here, right? Yeah, I'm not actually sure how she found out, but basically, I found out what I could as, briefly as possible, and I wanted to come in and learn a lot more. And obviously, you exceeded that for sure. It's just, it sounds like you guys have, we're reading a book currently. It's called Your Next 5 Moves. Just thinking ahead. It sounds like you're 20 years ahead in terms of to your point earlier. You mentioned if someone wants to join the program or be involved, but they don't have a car. It's well, you solved that already because we'll come pick you up. So it's it sounds like every roadblock or whatever that might be in the way, you just blow right through it, no problem. To give people equal opportunity, and to go off of that, actually, I like how you mentioned, kind of leveling playing field, so to speak. To make it as equal as possible, because at the end of the day, we're all people.
Yeah.
So I definitely think, but like I said, just blown away by everything you just said. So that's awesome.
Well, everything I've said, I've learned from the people who've lived it, so they get all the credit. I'm just someone trying to listen.
Right, exactly, and that's the biggest part of it, just listening, really. So
I think my favorite part of this talk so far is that you've used we and us and them, and you said I maybe once or twice the whole time, which is great. That kind of shows me. Looks like your leadership style. You want to manage, you want to kind of keep everything rolling and moving. But it sounds like this is set up to where everybody helps each other, and it's definitely kind of like a tribe or like a team or really a family, obviously, kind of dynamic. And I think that's great. I think that's a really cool, a great culture to have. So.
Yeah, well, appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure through 10 plus years already, but it's just only getting better and better. It sounded like it was already a great level to start, and then all the plans, like I said earlier, like that you have moving forward as far as expanding and whatnot, just to like, you know, really push that model and expand it all over the country. It would be great. You know?
Yeah, I think of all the ways we've been challenged, no one's ever challenged us on our ambition. So
Right.
if we want to get into the international vision and the retirement site in Hawaii, we can also talk about that.
Yeah,
definitely.
That'll be a for-profit ICW location.
Yeah. Oh, seriously, yeah, seriously. We'll definitely have to switch that around.
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome, John. You've again, I knew a fair amount about you guys, but not nearly as much as I learned today. But one of the things that really immediately attracted me to you, even after one of Sean's clients told me, was I went on your website and I think it said "Fit with Purpose."
Yep.
And so I saw that, and then that's obviously very similar to our tagline and our logo. So that was very much like ran in line with our philosophy. And you're talking about relationship building and developing the community, and that's what we're all about. For us, it's not just throwing some weights around and getting quote unquote jacked and leaving. It's about definitely more than that. You know, forming connections and serving the clients before us and cultivating a good, passionate community of people. So. I think that's awesome. Is there anything else that you want to add about the organization? Where people can find you? I'll put all of this below for our viewers. But how can we find you? How can people sign up for coaching? How can people get involved?
Yeah, we'll appreciate the opportunity. Easiest way is innercityweightlifting.org. And like I said, the next stage of our growth is really around increasing our personal training clients and corporate training clients. So. You can sign up for training sessions on our website, start with like an introductory call. And then companies are out there and interested. We offer virtual corporate training, which has actually been really cool in the COVID space.
Very smart.
Because we're able to satisfy basically 3 needs for a company. Reducing stress for their employees, keeping employees connected through a shared activity. And I think also as companies are being asked more to think about what is their responsibility to the communities they're in. Each of these sessions at Hayes Lumbar Trainers at $80 an hour. So people who otherwise might have increased barriers around employment and economic mobility can make significant incomes.
Yeah.
For a nonprofit, we always appreciate donations. And then, while we don't have any formal volunteer opportunities, we do always appreciate informal project-based volunteers. Okay. So, for instance, someone who can help people out with their taxes pro bono. Lawyers who might be able to help people out with some of the issues and challenges that they're up against, including we've had people who go to prison, their child support payments continue to grow while they're in prison when there's no way they can do anything. They get out and they owe $5,000, and they can't get paid until they pay that off. They can't get their license back until they pay that off. I have to believe the system is designed to do this.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But I have to believe there's lawyers that can help counter that system and help people out. So, those are the 3 ways. Signing up for either personal training or getting your company involved. Donations are always appreciated. And then, if someone has kind of a specific way they might be interested in volunteering, if there's a need, we're always excited.
Well, I'm definitely going to comment on that part. So DeMarco and myself are both kettlebell certified, and I see a bunch of kettlebells out there, of course.
Yeah.
So, if you have us at some point, we'd love to actually come in, maybe to your point earlier, pro bono, teach a class or like just some kind of workshop. Like that'd be
awesome.
Yeah,
we'd love to do that.
Yeah, we very much love teaching. I mean, really any kind of training, but specific kettlebell. So I feel like it's a not a lost art, but just a form of training that people aren't as savvy with, I guess.
Yeah.
We'd
we'd love to talk more about that and take you up on it. That'd be awesome.
We'd be down to do some workshops. Like Sean has way more credentials than I do. We're both kettlebell certified. He's got a bodyweight certification, and then I'm not sure if you've ever heard of Indian clubs before.
Those like the shoulder mobility.
Exactly. Yeah. So we got trained in that art as well. So we definitely do some workshops and get involved with you guys in that way. So.
That'd be awesome.
We'd love to have some more kettlebells at home. So
dude, I got some in my car right now.
Try one trainer, so.
That'd be great.
That's awesome. Do you have anything else you want to add, Sean?
That was the last thing. This whole time I was ready to say that.
Yeah.
So I would very much like to do that at some point. So.
Yeah. Well, John, I want to thank you so much for your time. We're very appreciative of obviously the time and what you're doing. I think it's really cool that there are people that are actually doing something to try to make things better and try to improve upon unfortunate circumstances and scenarios. When everything, this, again, I don't need to go into details, but this year's it's been tough for a lot of people. And, people did the Blackout Tuesday on Instagram and on Facebook, and, for a brief moment, everybody felt like we were connected and we were all doing something. But, did it really do anything other than make us a little more aware of what we already know? Not really. I think when you put time, money, and energy into a project and you're actually, helping people, and even for the way you're saying it, you're not even helping people. You're just putting them in a better position to help themselves and make it more sustainable, which is really awesome. And again, putting together that community. So I am 1,000% sold on what you guys are doing. I love it. And so Sean and I, this is something we kind of didn't talk about a lot, but we're going to be officially launching our business, Strength with Purpose, in January of next year. And they said, thank you, man, thank you. So we'll, hopefully in 11 years, you guys will be at year 22, and we'll be at year 11. So,
we'll do a joint party.
Yeah, seriously. But we've been talking about this, and we're going to sponsor you guys for the year of 2021.
Very appreciate it.
Yeah, we're super pumped. And so basically, to let you guys know, 5% of what we earn next year is going to go in your guys' pocket. So we're going to donate to you. We absolutely love what you're about, and I can't think of another organization that I would rather support.
Right.
So,
Like
especially at the local level, you guys are like two miles away from where I live, so it's awesome.
Like I said earlier, like I was pretty much like 1,000% in prior to today, but I wanted to learn more, and it's just like even more so solidified, so that's awesome.
Yeah. We really appreciate the opportunity to collaborate and all your support. So I'm looking forward to throwing some kettlebells around too.
Absolutely,
So
man.
I'll do my best to try to join for that one.
Yeah. Yes.
That'd be wonderful, man. Awesome. Well, John, thank you so much. And just to remind you guys that we do have the 1,000 subscriber challenge. So once we hit 1,000 subs, we're going to select 5 winners to win 5 free personal training sessions. They're not going to be here. You got to pay for the sessions here. But it's going to be a 3-month program as well, accessible via a free smartphone app, and then one of the Strength with Purpose shirts. So give you some swag once you grab the brand. And thank you so much. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Appreciate it.